In the pale light of dawn, I stepped onto my front stoop to retrieve the morning paper and found chaos instead of calm. HOA Karen, her ample frame straining against a designer blazer 2 sizes too small, was gleefully wielding a crowbar against my mailbox. The snapping sound of splintering would echo through the silent cul-de-sac as her teenage son crouched on my porch, smartphone raised, broadcasting his mother's criminal rampage live to his followers. My breath caught in my throat as neighbors peered from behind curtains, their faces filled with shock and dread. Karen's lips curled into a triumphant sneer as she thrust the half-destroyed mailbox at me, shouting, "You're in violation of Section 7.4. You vandalized community property, so I'm taking enforcement into my own hands." Her son's live chat erupted with hateful cheers, fueling her fury. I stood frozen for a heartbeat. Then my shock twisted into anger hotter than the rising sun. How dare she break her own rules in the name of them? The jolting reality that the supposed watchdog of our neighborhood had become its fiercest vandal sparked a resolve inside me. I would expose her hypocrisy and reclaim my property, no matter the cost. As her son's online viewers climbed into the thousands, I plunged into action, unearthing evidence that would turn the tide and reveal the truth lurking behind Karen's gilded facade. The first piece of the counterattack fell into place when I remembered the Ring camera I'd installed weeks earlier at Karen's request after a series of break-ins in the area. Though she claimed it would improve security, she never tested its footage until now. Rushing back into my house, I fumbled for the app on my phone and replayed last night's recordings. There, under the cold glow of a street lamp, was Karen herself sneaking onto my lawn just after midnight, brandishing spray paint and scrawling a crude message across my driveway. No parking HOA enforcement. The timestamp confirmed it happened hours before my mailbox was shattered. My heart pounded as I realized the depth of her deceit. She had framed me for vandalism to justify preemptive retaliation. In that moment, I felt both vindication and disbelief. How low could an entitled HOA president stoop? Gathering the footage, I drafted a concise thread of evidence and posted it to the neighborhood forum, titling it, "HOA President Caught Vandalizing Resident Property Livestreamed by Her Own Son." Within minutes, comments exploded with outrage. In the mounting uproar, I sought out an unexpected ally. Not the local sheriff, but the community's retired judge, Judge Ramirez, known for his unwavering fairness and disdain for mob mentality. I knocked on his gate, breathless, and delivered the footage on a USB drive. His silvered eyes softened as he watched Karen's midnight's antics. Without hesitation, he agreed to host a hearing in his home, inviting registered residents to examine the evidence with him. Word spread like wildfire, and by noon, a crowd gathered in Judge Ramirez's living room, eyes glued to his widescreen TV. Karen, summoned by certified letter, arrived in a flurry of excuses, clutching HOA bylaw books and a stack of fines she intended to levy against me. Judge Ramirez allowed her to present any evidence of my wrongdoing, but she had none beyond her son's live broadcast, which lay exposed as self-incrimination. When asked why she had not reported the midnight vandalism herself, she stammered and pointed fingers at imaginary culprits. The judge's gavel cracked in the silence and his pronouncement rang out. "This court finds no merit in the HOA president's allegations. Instead, you have committed actionable vandalism and defamation against your neighbor." Gasps filled the room. Karen's composure unraveled as mounting witnesses corroborated my footage and attested to her son's live stream. This courtroom twist where the HOA's own figurehead was tried by informal but respected judicial review shocked everyone, leaving Karen without recourse. Refusing to accept defeat gracefully, Karen stormed out, her son trailing behind, phone recording every step. Determined to salvage her dignity, she threatened legal action, claiming Judge Ramirez had no authority. But by then, the community had already rallied to my side. Neighbors who once bowed their heads in fearful obedience now stood tall, sharing stories of Karen's petty tyrannies. Fines for untrimmed hedges, bans on holiday decorations, and punitive restrictions on pool hours. Each tale was another nail in the coffin of her reign. In a dramatic confrontation on my lawn where Karen had intended to stage her own cleanup, I stepped forward, USB drive in hand, and played the Ring camera footage at full volume, letting every spray of paint and crack of wood resonate. As the final splinter flew, Karen's face paled, and her protests sputtered into silence. The sight of her son's live stream glitching on his screen behind her crystallized her downfall. The entitled enforcer undone by her own son's digital complicity. After that crushing display, Karen's authority collapsed. HOA bylaws were rescinded, her board membership revoked, and legal sanctions initiated for property damage and defamation. Invitations circulated for a community meeting to elect new leadership, emphasizing transparency and consensus. Judge Ramirez presided, and I watched as residents cast ballots for a fresh council, choosing peers known for fairness over fear. In the aftermath, a collective sigh seemed to rise from Willow Ridge Estates, as if the land itself exhaled. Flowers were planted where the broken mailbox had been, and a plaque was installed in honor of community and truth. Karen, marginalized and shamed, retreated to a rental far from the estates, leaving behind her shredded bylaws and fractured legacy. As evening descended, neighbors gathered around the newly planted rose bush, passing around iced tea and laughter, recounting the day's events with the relief of survivors. I found myself seated beside Judge Ramirez, who offered me a quiet nod of approval. Above us, the sky bloomed with stars, and I felt, with deep gratitude, that our unity had restored not only my mailbox but the very soul of our neighborhood. Yet, this victory raised a question. Did we risk too much by exposing her in such a public spectacle? Or was it essential to defend our rights against an entitled few? Share your thoughts on right and wrong below. The days unfolded like pages turning in a long-forgotten novel, each one revealing new layers of what it meant to be part of a community reborn. The freshly planted roses around the mailbox plaque blossomed beneath morning dew, their petals unfurling as if eager to witness the dawn of our collective victory. Neighbors stopped by to chat as they watered the blooms, sharing tales of the freedoms they once took for granted: a late-night jog, an impromptu porch concert, a midnight stroll under starlight without fear of a dossier in Karen's hand. The energy was palpable, a shared heartbeat vibrating through Willow Ridge Estates, binding us in ways no bylaw ever could. Though the dust of our confrontation had settled, its echoes still resonated. I spent afternoons collaborating with the new HOA Council, drafting a charter that emphasized transparency, accountability, and community input. At twilight, small groups gathered on my lawn where Karen had raged, and turned that very space into a symposium under strings of Edison bulbs. There, we debated park improvements, organized volunteer schedules, and even curated an annual art series celebrating local talent. The oppressive silence Karen had imposed gave way to lively discourse, and for the first time, every voice felt welcome in shaping our neighborhood's future. Unexpectedly, an investigative reporter from the regional paper reached out, intrigued by our story of grassroots justice. I met her on a crisp morning at the coffee shop, presenting her with digital copies of the Ring camera footage, HOA meeting minutes, and witness testimonies. Within days, she ran a 2-page feature headlined, "When Neighbors Rise: How One Community Overthrew Its Tyrant." The article painted vivid portraits of everyday residents, teachers, mechanics, retirees who refused to let entitlement extinguish their rights. The coverage sparked interest from civic groups and sparked invitations for me and members of the new council to speak at city halls and town halls alike. We became ambassadors of neighborly governance, sharing our blueprint for dismantling abuse of power with other communities facing similar woes. Back home, our own local traditions blossomed. We inaugurated a monthly Community Voices night at the Garden Amphitheater, where storytellers recounted personal triumphs and trials, weaving our shared history into living narrative. One evening, a shy teen took the microphone to reveal how Karen's curfews had made him feel trapped and isolated until our midnight barbecue taught him the value of collective courage. His words brought the audience to tears, a testament to how far we'd come from fearful subjects to empowered citizens. But challenges still arose. During a heavy rainstorm, the aging retaining wall on Maple Drive threatened to collapse, endangering several homes. Memories of Karen's negligence hung in the air, as she had refused to allocate HOA funds for maintenance. Now, the newly formed Neighborhood Rescue Committee sprang into action, coordinating emergency contractors, mobilizing volunteers to sandbag vulnerable spots, and even deploying my helicopter to ferry emergency supplies when roads flooded. The crisis management effort showcased our solidarity. We weren't just neighbors, we were guardians of one another's well-being. As autumn painted the trees in fiery hues, we celebrated the first annual Willow Ridge Festival. The helipad-turned plaza transformed into a carnival ground. Food trucks offered pumpkin spice empanadas. Local bands rocked makeshift stages, and a children's art contest displayed drawings of giant wardens of justice, often depicted as brave mailboxes standing tall against tyranny. The event drew a record turnout. Even refugees from disbanded homeowners associations in nearby towns attended, eager to learn how we restored harmony. That festival sealed our story not as a one-night revolt, but as an enduring movement toward participatory community. Meanwhile, the legal proceedings against Karen concluded with a settlement mandating restitution for the mailbox, a public apology, and attendance at community service events. Though some argued the penalty was too lenient, most believed it balanced justice with opportunity for redemption. Karen's enforced presence at cleanup days clad in a neon vest became a silent lesson. Even those who falter can contribute positively when guided by accountability rather than exclusion. In the quiet aftermath, I found myself reflecting on the fragility of harmony, how easily it can be shattered by the unchecked ambitions of one individual. Yet I also recognized the resilience born of unity, how a single act of courage can ripple outward, transforming apathy into action. Under the harvest moon, I walked the green alone, pausing at the rose bush and the plaque, my fingers brushing the engraved words, "In honor of community and truth." I whispered a silent vow to protect these values, knowing they belong to us all. On the final day of our story, as winter's first frost edged the grass in silver, I stood before my neighbors, now friends, at the annual meeting under festive lights. The new council's elections saw enthusiastic participation, with candidates proposing initiatives to expand our garden, enhance storm preparedness, and foster youth mentorship programs. We voted unanimously to enshrine a clause that no HOA officer may wield unilateral power, requiring all decisions to pass through open forums and secure digital recordings. At that moment, I raised a toast. To the spirit that refused to be caged, to the power of unity over entitlement, and to the promise that our community's strength lies in every voice heard, every story shared. Glasses clinked, laughter rose, and above us, stars blanketed the sky in silent approval. Our tale had come full circle. From outrage at dawn to radiant celebration under moonlight. From the vandalism that sparked a revolt to the traditions that would carry our legacy forward. What do you think? Did we do the right thing by exposing Karen so publicly? Or should some infractions be handled quietly for the sake of peace? Share your views on justice and community below.